talk about so many Periscope tweets popping up. And by so many, I mean one. Means we're live. Here we are, Friday, November 8th, NBA Strategy Show. Myself, Dave Loughran, gonna try to do 11 games in an hour and a half for the first time probably ever. Gonna have to be mildly limited at the amount of random junk we talk about. But Laffy, how did your Thursday shake out?
Could have been better. I was a little bit, I wrote up LaMarcus Aldridge in the deep dive as the positive regression's coming. He's shooting way worse than he ever has. His usage is way lower. His rebounding is way down. And then just based on his ownership, I got away from him because generally speaking, even good Aldridge games aren't games that are going to kill you if you don't have a lot. So, yeah, it was maybe a decision I'd change if I did it over again, but I don't know. I still, like I said, usually Aldridge, like, okay, he gave you 40 and you're happy with it, but it's not killing you without him either. So, that didn't help. He was very popular.
Yes, he was, and had quite the game. Had to happen eventually,
Mm-hmm. I mean, I literally said it was going to happen.
Yeah.
In my article, I just, I'm stupid.
I did not play last night. I cooked dinner for the wife. I assume I would have had Aldridge, but I broke even yesterday. I'll take it.
Yeah. Hey, that's better than a lot of nights, right?
For sure. Absolutely. Down a little bit, center you up. Perfect. So lineup study is not populated today for yesterday's information. And I'm honestly not upset about that because that's 5 minutes we desperately need. So check out lineup study, FC Pro feature. You can add that to any package you have. But we can talk a little bit about Yahoo Sports, the presenting sponsor of this show. I have dropped the link to Emacs Cash Building Blocks article. If you check the top of the article, there will be some information on how to sign up at Yahoo. You can use the promo code AWESOMO and get up to $30 in Yahoo Sports rewards points. They are running the 20K baller today, 25K, 50K. What do I know?
Yeah, Fridays they've been running those 50s. Same with Wednesdays.
Yes, 50K baller tonight, 10K to first. For some reason I didn't notice that before, so I'll be playing in that one. Oh, show. They've got the 250K baller for this Sunday, week 10 in the NFL. They've got lower management fees than the other sites across the industry, bouncing between 10 max, 150 max contests. They've got something for everybody. Really enjoy the payout structures at Yahoo. A little bit flatter, a little bit easier to be profitable, and you're not paying out as much. So check out Emacs article, use the promo code AWESOMO, and get up to $30 in Yahoo Sports rewards points today.
Them YSRPs, son.
YSRPs. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Those are things that you should... Like button, no brainer. As soon as you click on that link, should be an immediate thumbs up, but I'll let you get it in now. Today, we will have NBA rankings in front of the paywall. We'll have the NFL injuries article in front of the paywall, and we will have the NHL lineup builder in front of the paywall. Those are the three pieces of free content for today. Laffy, we have a ton to talk about. I'd love to just generically shoot the shit for the first 20 minutes of the show.
Yeah, we don't have time for that. Listen, I write injuries down. I have them all in one spot, right?
Right.
And then I write them down, not by hand, right? On a spreadsheet. I write them down there because it allows me to remember everything quicker. When you write it down, you visualize it, you see it, and then it's in my head. I swear I spent 20 minutes just writing down guys that are either out or questionable or doubtful.
Yeah, it took me a full 90 minutes to take a lap through this slate today and just look at rotations and make sure I pulled people in or out and notated that. It's a big one. It's a real big one. So here we go. Let's dive into it right away. Let me see if we've got ownership yet. We do not. All right, let's dive in. Indiana, Detroit, 107.75 implied total for the Pacers, 100.25 for the Pistons. I actually don't know if that's true. Do we have the totals? We do. There were 3 games that didn't have a total before I started. Detroit, Indiana was one of them. That is.
I don't have one on them yet. Do you?
Yeah, it's 211.5 there.
Okay.
The other ones that didn't have a total: Golden State,
Minnesota, Philly, Denver.
230. So I missed that one by 2 points. I'll take that. Philly, Denver, 210, way lower than what I had. All right, now we're good to go. 109.5 and 102 for this particular game, and we shall start on the Indiana side. We're not going to be in a situation where we're getting any deep cuts right now. So Jeremy Lamb is out. I am projecting Miles Turner in for right now. If that is the case, Turner on FanDuel looks like a fantastic center option at 6,600, so long as we don't see that he is limited in any way. I gave him 32 minutes. That's 4 less than what he was playing pre-injury, so we'll see how that shakes out. I think Turner and Brogdon are the main guys to pay attention to here, with Aaron Holiday, if he maintains his spot in the starting lineup, looking like a decent value option.
Yeah. Holiday, we can start with Holiday. His first stint was like an 8-minute stint with absolutely zero stats, nothing across the board.
Scared the shit out of me too.
I think, I went away from him and just went with a lot of Jarrett Culver, but it started getting dicey at the end, and Holiday at 3,100 ended up not killing you 23 fantasy points. So you'll take it, right?
Absolutely.
But I was on the other side hoping that he'd be terrible. Look, when you've got him in the starting lineup, the issue here is that you are 100% dependent on scoring, because Malcolm Brogdon is not going to defer in any sense to Aaron Holiday. You're just not going to see that. And why would you, right? He's looked phenomenal. And when you look at what we got last game out, Aaron Holiday had, 5 potential assists. Brogdon had 16. So 1 assist for Holiday is actually, down from what it should have been. You get 5, usually you convert like two of those or so. So did he have some chances? Yes. But in that same game, get this, TJ McConnell had 13 potential assists, and by the way, in 15 minutes, which is nuts. And Domantas Sabonis had 12. So Holiday may have had 5, but he was still 4th on the team in assist opportunities. I only mention that because if you are going to play him, you have to know that you're relying solely and on nothing else but scoring.
Yeah, I don't get the sense that I'd have a ton. But if he is in play, or if he is in the lineup, he will be a viable point guard punt on FanDuel. You'll also have Raul Neto potentially as well.
I think he's fine, by the way. I'm just saying you need him to score. There's nothing else you're getting from him.
That's very true. 0.77 FanDuel points per minute so far this season. Also, Domantas Sabonis is 9K on FanDuel, 8,700 on DraftKings. That's going to be a tough sell on an 11 gamer, especially if Turner is back.
He led the Pacers in touches last time out, which is crazy given that he also had 12 assist chances. Very interesting, man. Led Malcolm Brogdon, ahead of Malcolm Brogdon in touches, had only a few fewer potential assists. But I like these numbers because it illustrates what type of opportunity you're seeing. Is that something that we can expect to last? I don't know, but it is really fascinating. He had, how many rebound chances he had in that game in 28 minutes? 26.
Apparently all of them.
Yeah. Dude, that's nutty. 26 in 28 minutes.
That's a really, really, really big number.
Yeah.
Let me just ask the question, gun to your head, and you could only use one stat to make your lineups. What would you use? Probably their historical fantasy points per minute.
Yeah.
Minutes, maybe?
Per minute production.
I mean, maybe just minutes. Like if I really only had one thing, knowing minutes would probably be most helpful.
Yeah. And if not using a stat, I want to know who else is going to be on the court with him. I want to know who's handling the ball.
Yeah.
Because you can have a guard who in the right situation is running the offense, in the wrong situation touches the ball 30 times a game and sits there as a spot up shooter. So a lot of times understanding the situation and the rotations and who's running the offense, who's bringing the ball up the court is more important than statistics.
So sum it up for the Pacers. If you're keying in on anybody, what are you grabbing here?
It's crazy because I really have interest in Sabonis, just not at this price. And you'll understand why once we get a little bit further. There are, I think, 16 players on DraftKings with a price tag above 8,500, which is insane. Um, that price on Sabonis is going to be tough to get to. Say the same for Kevin Love in the next game. But I mean, I think Holiday's fine. Brogdon at 8,300, I don't have an issue with, but it feels like most of this team is priced at a spot that makes it pretty difficult to get to. If you have Miles Turner in, then I guess he's fine. Like you said on FanDuel,
6,600
everywhere
on
else.
FanDuel is craziness.
Yeah, exactly. And now Batadze's out.
Yeah.
So we already know that.
You're going with the last name in that scenario. Goga is so easy to say, and you're going with Batadze for some strange reason.
I'm weird like that. I don't like using first names, man. Try and stay professional.
I just treat him like I don't use the Bono, man. He is just one name.
Generally, you'll even hear me say Antetokounmpo. So I don't know. I got problems, bro.
That's fair.
But anyway,
Also, no Lamb today, but
right.
He's just
so
he's
Warren.
Been out.
You would think with the injuries and how this team looks that there would be a lot of interest here. I don't think Warren's crazy. I mean, he's been playing well. He's getting huge minutes right now. 41 in that overtime game, 38 in regulation against Chicago, then 32 in a game that they won by 15. What are you doing with Warren? Any interest?
Not really. Especially if Turner is back. As they get more and more of like the actual players for the Pacers, it's not going to go super well for TJ Warren. He'll have the ability to like go crazy, but he's not really involved in anything else other than scoring. So you need to just catch that scoring day. So for me, it's Aaron Holiday as value, Malcolm Brogdon on DraftKings for sure, and then Miles Turner on FanDuel.
Okay. Yeah, I got some Brogdon in my first crunch, and I expected to get some Malcolm Brogdon. Outside of that, on DraftKings specifically, I got like 2% Sabonis. And honestly, if I had like 4% Sabonis, even at that price, I wouldn't be opposed to it. Yeah. 4 or 5%, but definitely don't want to go overweight on that price tag.
No, I can tell you right now, I won't have a single share of him on FanDuel.
Yeah. Above 9. Yeah.
Pacers so far this season, 6% better than average defensively at limiting fantasy points per possession. Just grab that data off of NBA.com for the first time today. So NDD looking good. On the Pistons side, no Blake Griffin yet. No Reggie Jackson. No Derrick Rose. Probably no Tim Frazier. So this should be business as usual for the Pistons. Andre Drummond 10-9 on FanDuel. 10-5 on DK. $51 on Yahoo. I think there's a lot more value to be found at center today. I have a hard time sifting between Towns, Drummond, and Embiid, at least on FanDuel, but we've got Jokic and Vooch sitting there at like $2,000 cheaper. It's not to say that I don't like Drummond, but he's pretty much priced where he should be now.
Mm-hmm. Towns is my clear number one there in that price range. It's going to be difficult for me to get away from Towns against what has been by far the league's worst defense. It's not close, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
Warriors allowing 4 more points per 100 possessions than any team.
They're 10%
we'll
worse from fantasy points per possession.
Yeah,
it's atrocious.
It's bad. It's bad. So, is Drummond always in play? Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. He is. But with that price tag really starting to get up there, it's no longer like Drummond is a priority, not on an 11-game slate. But I guess the one advantage that always needs to be discussed is he's playing minimum 35 minutes per game.
Yep.
Minimum, barring foul trouble. That's his minute floor. So when you're looking at his ridiculous per minute production and the minutes he's getting, you can always at least make an argument for, hey, Drummond's going to be on the floor. That's all that matters. He had a 32-23 game against Indy earlier this year, an 18-18 game against them. This is the third time they'll face each other, with or without Miles Turner. Drummond always has legit 30-20 upside.
We just got ownership, so I'm grabbing that right now. What do you want to do with the other guys from the Pistons? Bruce Brown, Kennard, and Markieff Morris at 4,400 on DraftKings coming off the big one.
Yeah, Bruce Brown was a big time disappointment last time out. He still played 34 minutes. I think the price is manageable, but you're not going to see Bruce Brown as a priority today, especially with all of the high end options. You're probably going to be doing a lot of stars and scrubs. We'll get to a couple value guys later. Um, with him, I don't know about you, but the price just seems a tad bit prohibitive there. And I would say the rest of this team, the prices are getting to a point where, mind you, these are two bottom 10 paced teams. Like this will be one of the lower scoring games on the day, which doesn't mean you avoid it entirely.
Right.
It just means you might not have as much interest. I do, however, still think that Markieff Morris is viable. Now that game ended up blowing out. So he probably would have played around 33, 34 minutes in that. And if that's the case, you can hope to see that type of run from him today. And he's let's see, in that game, he came out with 2.5 minutes left in the fourth. So he probably would have got around 31, 32 minutes.
Ownership on this game: Drummond 11% on FanDuel, Markieff Morris 10% on DK, Christian Wood 13% on DK. Those are the only numbers north of 10%. On the Indiana side, Aaron Holiday and Brogdon are both just north of 10 on FanDuel, Brogdon at 12% on DK. Nobody else gaining any ownership there. So I think we hit on everything that's a relevant piece.
Yeah, I think we got it.
Okay. Keep it moving here. Orlando Magic, Memphis Grizzlies. Yuck. 107.25 for the Magic. 100.75 for the Grizz. Got to first start with Vooch. 8,400 on FanDuel. 7,800 on DraftKings. There's a lot of ownership coming in for Orlando, so maybe I'll just sum that all up. Vooch is in double digits. Aaron Gordon in double digits. Evan Fournier is at 34% on FanDuel. He is 4,500. He's at 25% on DraftKings, where he's 4,400. DJ Augustine in double digits. Michael Carter-Williams is in double digits on FanDuel. Anything here standing out to you from the Magic? I'm a big fan of Fournier, particularly on DraftKings. I'm a big fan of Vooch at this salary. What are you looking to do?
Yeah, Vooch has been okay. The one that stands out to me a lot here is Aaron Gordon. I think you're getting a very, very good price point on him, and he does really well in pace-up opportunities, pace-up spots. I think when you're talking about how he's performed this year, he's been underwhelming for sure. But at 6K on DraftKings, this actually does stand out as a pretty decent spot. 63 on FanDuel as well. I think Memphis is just going to be one of these teams that we can pick on this season. And they're playing at a top 5 pace. They've got a defense that has been probably better than they should be, but still bottom 10 in the league. The only thing is they've actually done a pretty good job of containing centers. Joe Val, not a bad defender. I think Jaren Jackson, when he gets out of foul trouble or when he stops fouling as much as he does, will be viable. But I think Aaron Gordon is a pretty solid option, and you're not going to get him much cheaper than this.
You're really not. 6K is just kind of crazy. I'm gonna have a lot of Orlando, and I hate myself for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not fun. What's the total on this game? It can't be high.
208, I believe, somewhere in that neighborhood.
So it might be the lowest on this slate.
Yes. Yes, that or Nuggets Sixers.
It is the lowest on the slate.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fantastic. It's shockingly low, and I'm going to have exposure to it. It's never good. Never good at all. I hate having exposure to games like this.
Yeah, well, if the price is all right, then it's not a huge deal because, if we're talking about, okay, this game has a total that's 8 points lower than another game. If a guy is priced well and he's a high enough usage guy, then I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah. What do you think about 34% owned Evan Fournier on FanDuel and 25% owned Fournier on DraftKings?
The Fournier, man, that's the ugly one. That's the one I don't feel good about. But at that price, the guy's playing like he's getting the minutes. So I don't see him shooting this poorly forever, right? He shot 0 for 7. I mean, he's had some really dreadful games. He's out there. Terrence Ross is not going to play, so I think Fournier could actually earn more minutes because of that. I think you at least have to consider Evan Fournier.
Yeah, and that's sort of disgusting.
Oh, it's filthy. It sucks, but what are you going to do? I mean,
he's
right
the best.
now,
He's the best pay down option at shooting guard on FanDuel by a mile.
Yeah, and right now there isn't that much value. Like
No.
when you're looking at value options across the board, of course, we'll get to that Philly game with Ben Simmons out. There are a couple spots, but I don't know if there's anything that's really that great.
No, not at all. Like down in his area, it's Bembry and Korkmaz and Norm Powell and Tony Snell. Like Fournier has to be more involved in this one. Plus, it's against Memphis, not spectacular defensively. I'm going to have Vooch probably way more than the public. I'm going to have Fournier probably comparable to the public. I'm not happy about it. He's been at 0.78 FanDuel points per minute so far this season. I have him in for 30 minutes. That's 23.4 fantasy points at that rate. I expect him to be slightly better than he's been. And at that price tag, you can't really get away from it. He's $18 on Yahoo. You can safely ignore him there.
Who would your top plays be from this Orlando side?
For me, it's Vooch and Fournier.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree. But I think Aaron Gordon's in play too. So all three of these, I don't want them all in the same lineup by any means. But if I had two of them, even on an 11-game slate, it's a big pace up spot for them and a good matchup. So there's no question that all of these guys are positioned to have a solid game. I mean, Orlando is 28th in pace this season. So Memphis is 5th. And they're averaging almost 10 more possessions per 48. That's definitely a favorable uptick in opportunities you're going to see here and possessions for the Orlando Magic.
Oh, absolutely. This is a monster pace up spot for them. That's really the benefit.
Yeah. Sure.
Oh, this is going to be a gross one. And by the way, I have no issue with Aaron Gordon. Fournier and Vooch are just kind of like a solid step above. Memphis? Nobody above 6% exposure, and that is Jonas on FanDuel. I truly don't have anything that I would recommend from the Grizzlies today.
Right now, I don't either. If Ja Morant starts coming down in price a little bit, or if his minutes start to tick up, then we can have that conversation. But the same thing goes for Joval. He did play 27 minutes last game, though, so that's at least interesting. If he starts seeing an uptick in minutes, then I begin to like him more because with Joval, man, looking at the numbers that you get from him on a per minute basis, he really is a great per minute player. He always produces, and 27 minutes last game makes things very interesting. Does he get up to 29 or 30 today? I think he probably stays around 27, but he can put up monster numbers. The only thing is, on an 11-game slate, do you need to risk that?
It just doesn't seem like a spot that needs to be done today.
Mm-mm.
I have nothing else to add for Memphis. This is a perfect spot for us to trim some time.
Yep, I would agree with that.
The Washington Wizards are 5-point favorites in a basketball game. Incredible.
It certainly is.
117 implied total. There is no defense happening in this one either. 117.
I was surprised to see they were favorites until I saw who they were facing.
Yeah, Cavs are oddly bad. 112 implied total for the Cavs. Wizards have been 5% worse than average, giving up fantasy points on a per possession basis. And the Cavs said, that's nothing. We're 7% worse. I just ripped off part of my desk. Nice. Anyway, Bradley Beal is a little chalky here. Evidently, the public thinks that Bradley Beal's got a decent matchup. He's 9,100 on FanDuel, 8,600 on DraftKings, 16-3 on Fantasy Draft, also looking pretty good. 35% ownership on FanDuel, 23 on DK. We've also got Troy Brown on FanDuel at 30%, only 4K. Thomas Bryant, Isaiah Thomas, Rui Hachimura, all in play on DraftKings. To me, this is basically a two-horse race between Beal and Thomas Bryant. Bryant getting no love on FanDuel. 6,700 on DraftKings, though, looks pretty tasty. Let's sum up these Wizards for me. How good does Bradley Beal look against the Cavs?
He looks good, but I don't know if he looks as good as everyone else thinks he looks.
Yeah.
I think there might be some beer goggles going, but no, I'm kidding. He's cheap enough now. I mean, his price has come down $800 from where it was just a few days ago. When Beal was up at that 97, even $9,400 range, you're not gonna convince me that he's a great play. But on a slate like this, even with 11 games, seeing that his salary has come down where it is to 8,600, that to me is very appealing. Um, from a usage standpoint, he's at 34% this season, so that's huge. 28% assists is solid as well, and he's not rebounding all that poorly for a guard. Yeah, Beal at this price is going to stand out to you as a strong option against a very bad Cleveland team. Even 9,100 on FanDuel, that actually seems low given some of the wild price tags that we've seen. Cleveland is going to play at a slow pace, but as we saw last year, despite playing at a slow pace, their defense is so bad that teams are just more efficient against them, right? And that's the case again this year. They're allowing the sixth highest field goal percentage. They're allowing the seventh highest 3-point percentage. The only thing a few of these really bad teams are doing, oddly enough, Hornets and Cleveland Cavaliers are allowing the fewest free throw attempts and the fewest personal fouls against. But I'm really not too worried about that. A Cavs team that plays at a bottom 10 pace is also allowing the ninth most points per 48. You do the math.
Oh god, the Cavs are just so terrible.
Yeah.
Sorry, Fields. I'm gonna have some Beal, but I don't love the price tag. Like, is he really that much different than D'Angelo Russell on FanDuel, $400, where he's $400 cheaper, or like Donovan Mitchell, Drew Holiday?
Wait. What? Hold on. What are you saying? Are you saying that Beal's better than them, or that he's worse than them at that price?
I mean, he's 35% owned. Russell's at 8. Mitchell's
Got
at
you.
5.
Okay, I see.
Holiday's at 11. Like, I don't need that much Bradley Beal in my life.
I think Russell at that price, and of course we will get there. But and that's kind of what I was saying with the beer goggles. Not necessarily serious that I think he's bad and he just looks good, but that he might look a little bit better than we think. That Golden State game, you've got a monster total. It's a 230, right? 230. And while the Minnesota Timberwolves are pretty heavy favorites, they're not that good of a basketball team. So I mean, guys like Russell, and we're talking about it now, so we can just kind of skip it when we get there. But yeah, dude, with D'Angelo Russell, I'm with you. Mitchell, I feel probably a little different about that against Milwaukee, but there's no question that D'Angelo Russell spot is really appealing.
We're on the same page. Do you have any thoughts on Thomas Bryant?
The position has a lot of depth, and Thomas Bryant might be a little bit difficult to get to. $6,700 on DraftKings. You'll be hearing a lot of this, prohibitive pricing, only because with 11 games, there's so much to sift through. I think he's a fine mid-range guy. I think in terms of value, I had him somewhere, in the middle. I got like 10% Bryant initially. Okay.
That works for me. 14% owned on DK. What do you think of Isaiah Thomas and Rui getting ownership? And then we can move on to the Cavs side, which is basically useless. Yeah,
I said to Dan Strafford on the early bird, which you can check out at youtube.com/Awesemo. The problem with Isaiah Thomas is, am I going to get more than 24 minutes from him? And very similarly to Jonas Valanciunas, on this slate with so many games, I'm really not looking to run the risk of a guy having a ceiling game in 24 minutes.
Right. Yeah, I can't imagine wanting to get to Isaiah Thomas at 5,100.
No. If I could trust him to play starters minutes, I would have a ton of Isaiah Thomas today.
Yeah, same. I mean, he's been 1.2 fantasy points per minute. So
exactly. You get him at even 30 minutes, right? You get Isaiah Thomas at even 30 minutes, and you're talking 36, 37 fantasy points on average.
Right. Yeah. But if it's 24 and him and Ish are just splitting the stuff, then I don't want either guy. Only other thing we need to touch on, 30% owned Troy Brown on FanDuel. I missing something?
Yeah, I guess you are. I guess I am too.
Oh, I was like, okay, then tell me what I'm missing.
I think we're both missing something because there's no way that holds.
No.
Right? Is there any way that holds? It seems impossible. Like by the way, he had that game and you were on him that day, so props. But you may say something similar a couple days later and he plays 14 minutes. So I just really have no idea.
I gave him 24 minutes. I mean, even if I give him 30, I'm not going to go crazy. Well, I'll probably go crazy at 4K. So maybe that's the appeal. Maybe I'm light in minutes. We'll see as we get closer to lock. Clearly a good spot, but
yeah,
good luck hashing out half of these Wizards guys, especially now with CJ Miles back.
Oh yeah, no, look. First of all, he's been a slightly above 1 fantasy point per minute guy. When you talked about him, he was $3,600 on DraftKings. Now he's $4,400. So you don't have that cushion that you did before. 4K on FanDuel, I do understand why there'd be some appeal there, but for the most part, Troy Brown doesn't seem like a necessity. I'm honestly, why not just go with Evan Fournier, DraftKings at the same exact price? Give me Fournier all day in that spot. I'm assuming Fournier is getting a lot of ownership right now anyway, but
yeah.
Wouldn't you rather have a identically priced Fournier than Troy Brown, knowing that Fournier could play 33 minutes?
Especially if they're priced or if they're owned the same. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Fournier's up there, 25%, but
Troy Brown's at 30 on FanDuel.
Oh, on FanDuel. Okay, so on DraftKings, Troy Brown is 6.5. So that's different.
It's closer, but I mean, I Fournier grades out a lot better.
Even with Fournier at only $500 more than Brown on FanDuel, it's pretty easy where to go. It's clearly Fournier
for sure. Cleveland, they play today, I guess. It's a good spot for them. I'll probably have a little bit of Larry Nance on FanDuel at 4,900, and the rest of the team is skippable, in my opinion. Nobody's getting ownership either. Nobody is in double digits other than Nance on FanDuel.
I'd say this is a game where if Kevin Love was viable, then, or if he was priced right, then I'd be on it, because I like what I've seen from him. I like the fact that his usage seems to be increasing from what we saw earlier in the year, meaning like last week, and his rebounding has been insane. Predictably, we've seen it come down a little bit because the rebound chances were through the. I mean, it was something. There's really no reason that it should be continuing at that pace. But that price is, again, very tough to get to. I don't see how you pay $9,300 for Kevin Love here.
Nope.
I'm assuming you're the same. $9,300 on FanDuel, but $9,300 on DraftKings is really insane for someone that you're very seldom going to get that monster game from him.
Yeah, I will essentially have zero of him. He's the second most expensive power forward on the FanDuel slate today. No thanks. Him and Sabonis just overpriced, in my opinion. You've got guys like Jabari and Julius Randle sitting at 7K as just like monstrously better values.
Yeah.
It feels wrong to not have a lot of a game that's just made up of two really terrible defenses, yet here we are. There's just so much value moving forward.
No question. And we're going to get to a couple games that are really appealing in just a minute.
We certainly are. First, we're going to head to Atlanta. Hawks 108.75 implied total. Kings 110.75. Surprised to see the Kings be the favorites in Atlanta, but no John Collins will do that to you. Tre Young.
Still surprising.
A little bit, yeah. 9,300 for Tre Young on FanDuel, 8,900 on DK, 16-1 on Fantasy Draft, which I also think looks pretty good. But those FanDuel and DraftKings prices are clearly the best in my opinion. 17% owned on both sites. Jabari also in the slight double digits. You get Cam Reddish at 15 on FanDuel. You get DeAndre Hunter at 12% on DraftKings. But the two guys that I think we're talking about here with, and only talking about, at least in my opinion, would be Tre Young and Jabari. I like Tre Young. I assume that he plays more than 30 minutes today. And if he does, he's one of my favorite point guard options at the top.
Yeah, I mean, that was a tough game. And a lot of people ran with Tre Young in that last one. Just a brutal performance, 29 minutes, second of a back-to-back. I mean, I don't think anyone would have seen that coming, even if you were under the assumption that that he was going to be perfectly fine, or that it was a back-to-back. You still don't expect 15 minutes or 15 fantasy points. Looking though at Tre Young, 8,900, sub 9K on DraftKings. That to me is very appealing. And I guess it comes back to what you were saying about Bradley Beal, where of course Tre Young's point guard, Beal's shooting guard, but still you can pretty much do whatever you want in terms of manipulating where you play guys at what position. Tre Young, I think we could put him in that same category as D'Angelo Russell and saying, okay, wherever that ownership's going to be, this is a spot where you're not getting cute trying to get away from it. Right. You're simply finding somewhere that's a really good spot. So on DraftKings right now, we have Beal at 22.3%. We have D'Angelo Russell at 5.8%. That seems nuts. Yeah. Tre Young is at 17%, but he's still 5% or 6% less than Beal. So right now, I think of this group, I'd probably put D'Angelo Russell number one, and then a toss-up between Tre Young and Bradley Beal at the guard spots.
I have no problem with that. I think Tre Young looks really good, especially at 8,900 on DK. I have him and Lillard really close. I have him way ahead of like Kyrie at a bigger number. I've got him pretty sizably ahead of Beal at 8,600. I've got him ahead of D'Angelo Russell at 84 too. I really like Tre Young tonight.
So do I.
Sacramento defense 4% worse than average so far this season. And this should be a track meet too.
Right. I think Jabari's fine. Definitely not going to be a priority option, but I really don't have a huge issue with getting to Jabari at his price point. I wouldn't say he's overpriced. I wouldn't say he's underpriced. He's probably where he should be, getting around 15% early on.
I'm a big fan of Jabari today, actually, at 6,400.
Okay.
Yeah, he grades out really well for me. If I just sort by my personal value metric, Jabari is my 11th ranked guy on the entire slate.
11th on this. Okay, wow.
Yeah. No, interesting. Relative to salary, obviously. It's not like I think he's projected for 60 fantasy points or something, but
right.
0.94 FanDuel points per minute so far. I believe that's probably going to end up being low. I do want to dig into him a little bit. I've got him a little bit higher, but somebody's got to do something for the Hawks, and he's not afraid to shoot the ball, so I'm going to bet on that against the Sacramento team that I'm not really confident in their defense, especially if they're going to be playing Richaun Holmes as the primary center instead of Dwayne Dedmon. So,
yeah, and Dwayne Dedmon right now remains questionable, so yes. I don't know if we're going to get there. Nevertheless, Dwayne Dedmon has only been playing, 15, 17 minutes over his last couple games anyway. Richaun Holmes' price point has come up to a point where that's pretty untenable. But yeah, the other guy I would ask you about though, where are you at on DeAndre Hunter?
He will not be in a single lineup that I have.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, it really is that easy. What the hell was I just about to look up? Jabari, Sacramento. Yes, Sacramento. John Holmes. I want to see how much worse the defense gets when Holmes is off the floor. On off this year. Wow. Better. Is Richaun Holmes suddenly like decent defensively? Did I miss something?
He's never been horrible, but he's never been good either.
He has been horrible defensively forever.
Huh?
He has been horrible defensively forever. They have been better from a point per possession basis. They are 12 points worse so far this season when he is off the floor. His first couple years in Philly and Phoenix, he was a large net negative.
I guess it depends what are you using, like real plus minus?
No, just points per possession
just on floor and off the floor. What their plus minus?
Yeah. I know that's a little cloudy, but for centers, I think they have a little bit more ability to dictate a team's defense. So
yeah, it's possible. Also, he's a terrible scorer. So I don't know how much of it was contributed to that, but yeah, I mean, I'll put it to this: I'm not. It's very early. I'm not buying into that yet. and I wouldn't be super worried about either of them being on the floor at starting center.
Okay. Do you want any of the Hawks value, like Reddish or Kevin Herter or Bembry, anything like that?
No, I on an 11 game slate, I'm just really not interested in playing this like cheap wings that aren't cheap enough, that very rarely touch the ball and rely on, falling into some peripheral stats because they can't do it on their own. No, I'm not there.
Sacramento side, De'Aaron Fox, 8,200 on FanDuel, 8K on DK, 14.3 on Fantasy Draft, which I think is probably the best price. $30 on Yahoo also looks appealing to me. I think Fox is right there in that there's just the top of point guard is loaded.
Yep.
Today. Absolutely loaded. The only guy that I don't really like is Kyrie, and that's probably just a guy that I need to dig into a little bit further because he's been a little different for the Nets. There's just so much point guard value out there, and I think the Fox is another piece of it. 21% projected ownership on FanDuel, just 8 on DK. We've also got Rashawn Holmes at 24% projected ownership on FanDuel. Not so sure I'm interested in that sort of volume. Not that I don't like him, but seems pretty healthy. How do you feel about Fox, and what do you want to do with the rest of the Kings in a decent matchup?
Yeah, Fox has a usage rate that is significantly higher than we've seen in any of his 2 previous seasons. 28.5% usage this year, 34.5% assist rate. Very solid numbers. Not a great rebounder, also not a terrible one. De'Aaron Fox against Atlanta in a game that should see its fair share of scoring. Pace is different than it was last year, though. I think that's probably worth noting. Kings are playing it, and the 11. Or no, I'm sorry, that's the wrong one. But it is still different than it was last year. Let me pull it up. I had another stat. So Kings in pace are playing at the 5th slowest pace, and Atlanta playing at the 13th slowest pace. So I think really what you're relying on is subpar defense in this game. I will mention the Hawks 102.8 defensive rating this year has not been terrible, and they actually have looked better than expected. Nevertheless, De'Aaron Fox, if you're getting him at a reasonable price point, I think he's very, very viable. But once again, I don't see myself getting to a lot of him because he's not that far off from guys like D'Angelo Russell and Young and Beal. There are so many guys, like you said, it's so loaded in that range that De'Aaron Fox hoping for his 45 fantasy point game doesn't seem necessary today.
We're on the same page. I don't know what else to do with this Kings team. They're real tough to read, too. I mean, Harrison Barnes is just playing monster minutes, but he stinks.
Oh, he's so bad.
How do you separate Brogdon and B. Jelly and even Buddy Hield to an extent? All these guys are like 0.8 and change fantasy point per minute guys, and that's just no man's land in the mid 6s. Someone's gonna pop. I just don't know how to tell who that's gonna be. So the most likely scenario is I probably only have Fox, and that's about it here.
I don't think you need to get to anybody really here. Does Bogdanovich play another 30 minutes? Hard to say.
Maybe.
He's cheap. What's that?
Maybe.
Yeah, he's cheap. He's similarly priced to, Fournier, so there's that. I could see that, as a potential pivot in that spot, but outside of that, I think I'd be all right moving on. There isn't much here. Buddy Hield's price is okay, but Holmes' prices, he's overpriced on DraftKings. This is just not an appealing spot. And Atlanta, while they are not going to be a great team this year, it's not going to be that 100% plug and play everybody against them every single time they're on the floor.
Right. I've got nothing else here.
Let's move it on to this good game.
I don't know which one you think I'm grabbing right now.
I go in a different order than you do then.
I mean, they're both good. So the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Golden State Warriors. Is that where you were looking?
That was it, baby.
Alrighty. I think both 8 o'clock games are really good. 121 implied total for the Wolves, 109 for the Santa Cruz Warriors. 12-point favorites here at home for Minnesota. Jeff Teague, questionable. No Shabazz Napier. He is currently doubtful. We've got Towns at 11.5 on FanDuel. Just kind of a tough sell for me given everything else that's there. But he is 10-3 on DraftKings and projected for 31% ownership. And I'm going to let you know right now, that is not one of them trying to get away from. Towns looking like either him or AD at 10-1 are the two best pay up options in my opinion. Ownership is there as well, 31% owned on DraftKings. I like Towns clear across the board, but a little expensive on FanDuel.
Yep, I'm with you. Karl-Anthony Towns, I mentioned it on this morning's show or last night's early bird that he clearly stands out as one of your top options on this slate.
Yeah.
Like that's why with Drummond, how much can you really like Drummond when you've got Towns here against the Warriors team that's just been decimated defensively? You know, I'm not usually a big DVP guy, but at center, I think you can sometimes gain some knowledge from seeing how they've performed against the position, just in terms of how badly they protect the paint. On the season, no team has allowed more points to opposing centers than Golden State. They've been ravaged in the rebounding department as well, the 7th most there. They're allowing 58% shooting and some of the most free throw attempts per game to opposing centers. To be exact, the 5th most free throws. They've just really struggled in that department. And then when you look at some of the obvious stuff, like where's all this coming from? Points in the paint, they're allowing the 3rd most points in the paint. It's been really ugly for them, and it's only going to continue to get worse until Draymond Green returns. So, yeah, it's just across the board, man. It is such a good spot for Karl-Anthony Towns. The game has a 230 over-under. And then to kind of cap it off here, when you're looking at implied totals, no team has a higher implied total than the Timberwolves this slate. So lock it up. I also think that Jarrett Culver, if Teague and Napier are out, I know his prices come up a little bit.
Not on FanDuel.
No, 3,800 on FanDuel. But that's
27% ownership too at this point.
Yeah, I don't even need to talk about that. That's an obvious one. But even on DraftKings, where he's 5K, I don't think it's unrealistic to assume that we could get a decent game from Culver here. Just a really, really, really good spot. He had 62 touches last game. He had 9 potential assists. He got up 13 shots. The big thing, and I'll throw this back to you, that really surprised me. Do you know who led the team in potential assists and touches?
Wally Zerbiak.
Andrew Wiggins.
Ugh.
He had 15 potential assists. Explain that one to me.
Their 2 point guards were out.
But it's still Andrew Wiggins, man.
I bet that looks very similar when days where Teague was out last year too.
Yeah, I guess. But I'm telling you right now, if Teague's out, and of course Napier's out, those numbers stand out to me. Like Wiggins obviously was running this a lot, and the price point is a little tough. But if his ownership, do we have? I guess ownership doesn't mean much on Wiggins right now, given the uncertainty.
12% on FanDuel.
Yeah, 2% on DraftKings. It would come up if Teague and them were out, but I could pretty much assure you that of the guys that benefit from Teague and Napier being out, Wiggins certainly appears to be up there.
Yeah.
And I think he'll go overlooked where Culver and Karl-Anthony Towns get the most attention.
I'm going to say this, take the stand right now. I would not play a single share of Jarrett Culver today on DraftKings, whether or not Teague and Napier are out. If they're both out, I still don't like it. 3,800 is a price tag that I think is viable. I probably still will not have him or will barely have him. I'm just simply not interested in that value for today, no matter how good this matchup is.
At 3,800, you wouldn't be interested in a guy with the highest total against the worst defense in the league, against the team that is playing at a top 3 pace, getting opportunities at point guard at $300 above minimum salary. Is that what you're saying?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. By the way, Golden State, I didn't mean fastest pace. I meant dead last defense.
Yeah.
That to me is very surprising, especially at small forward.
So if I I'll just bump him up right now to 30 minutes. It's not where I have him right now, but just for sake of argument, if I put him at 30 minutes, he's a value, and I will have him if both guys end up being out. I think the 27% is kind of crazy. He's been, obviously a very small sample size, 0.71 FanDuel points per minute. You're going to need every one of those minutes that he's on the floor. And you mentioned Andrew Wiggins leading the team in touches in this regard with him out. I think Culver is just a cog in the machine. And I don't necessarily think that him being like the fifth option is the place that I need to find value today. I really don't, without question, no interest at 5K on DraftKings.
I even have some interest there.
Yeah, he probably wouldn't even make a crunch for me on DraftKings.
Yeah, all right. I think the opportunities in this game will be there. It feels like a spot where everyone on Minnesota can have themselves a game, especially if he gets 30 plus minutes. I'd have very limited amount on DraftKings, but there's no question I'd have a good amount on FanDuel. Product of the slate or of the game, the conditions in this game stand out to me. I love it.
Somebody said 0.71 is bad analysis that doesn't factor out Teague and Napier. No, it factors in the fact that he's a rookie, and rookies
he's played 44
suck at basketball.
He's played 44 minutes with Teague off the floor, 1 fantasy point per minute, 25% usage, and 29% assist rate.
Yeah, I tend to think that rookies are going to play the way that rookies should, and a 0.71 rate for him is probably lofty.
No, not with Teague off the floor. No. In this game, dude, against the Warriors.
Just saying.
I mean, I'm not gonna try and change your mind, but yeah, I think Culver would be a top value on FanDuel if Teague and Napier are out.
I think he is a value on FanDuel. I have other preferences as we work our way through this. But yeah, I don't want to put my hopes in the hands. Look, 3,800, there's no mistake to be made rostering Culver at 3,800 on FanDuel. There's very little downside. But I don't need to hold hands with everybody there on an 11 gamer. I just don't like it on a team where Towns and Wiggins are going to be the dominant guys.
Right, but I don't. But I think that's ignoring they're being the dominant guys at 11,500 and at 7,100. He can be the non-dominant guy. He can be the beta at 3,800, and it still doesn't really matter. This analysis is interesting from you, Josh, because how often are you going to get value $300 north of minimum salary where they are the dominant option on the team? It just doesn't happen.
Well, here's the question. What are you looking for out of Jarrett Culver for him to be a good play today in a tournament? Because this is an 11-game slate. There's tons of value out here. I have him projected for 21 fantasy points. I need him to score 35 to not be awful in a GPP. I don't see him doing that all that often.
What I'm saying is, we play guys like Cam Reddish and just bad value across the board. I mean, when you talk about Evan Fournier, how much different really at $800 above him or $700 above him? How much different is Evan Fournier knowing that they'll probably play the same minutes? Nikola Vucevic and Aaron Gordon. I'd say Nikola Vucevic is going to see the bulk of, or at least be the predominant guy in that offense. And then Fournier cleans up the scraps. I just think it, almost $1,000 discount. I'm okay with that, knowing that 32 minutes against the Warriors will likely help him fall into some peripherals.
So I'm trying to keep up with chat right now. 35 minutes at 1 point per minute. He played 30 minutes in the last game. Why is he playing 35 minutes now?
Yeah, and I'm not projecting him for 1 fantasy point per minute. He's only played 44 minutes with Teague and Napier off the court. But factoring in pace, matchup, Golden State defense, and no Teague and Napier, I'm still going to give him. I don't know. I wouldn't give him 1, but I certainly wouldn't be giving him 0.7 either.
Yeah, I'll give him 30 minutes. If I get him to 0.8, fine. I think that's he's a reasonable cash punt option because he's going to have some ownership and be a good point per dollar play. But if I'm trying to win a GPP, I don't think that he has that sort of ability to get me there.
But Fournier does?
Absolutely.
Okay. I mean, he got up 13 shots in 30 minutes last game. I don't know. We're gonna run way too long on this. I think
at the least we're talking about the actual slate.
Right, of course. But I think the our viewers can make up their minds. They've heard both sides of our argument.
Land with me, guys. Land with me. I'm the smart one. Josh is hating on Culver here when he's about to hype Neto later. Brendan Gobert nailed that one. I'm
assuming you are going to hype Neto, right?
I certainly am.
Yep. But just to be clear, there aren't any dominant players on that team.
Nope, not at all.
There aren't any guys that are going to control the possessions and get up most of the shots. Definitely not Embiid or Tobias Harris. Not even Josh Richardson or Al Horford. So, yeah. This will be fun.
Guys, I didn't say no interest. I will have Jarrett Culver if Jeff Teague is ruled out.
Don't backpedal now, fella. I want you to stand your ground.
But I don't think he's some amazing. He shouldn't be at 27% ownership right now with Teague in. That's craziness.
Yeah, I mean, that's stupid.
And Teague is in. He's at 2% owned on FanDuel and 4% on DraftKings. This isn't a flat zero. So I find that to be incredibly incorrect. Whatever. History will look back at this moment with a great look on old Josh here. Who thinks Josh should wear a Culver jersey tomorrow? Amazon Prime it. Maybe a college one. On the Golden State side, I'll take some D'Angelo Russell at 84 on DraftKings, 15.9 on Fantasy Draft. I'll take a little Glenn Robinson the third for 4,800 on FanDuel. You can cross your fingers and try to get somebody else right, but I'm going to go ahead and be very, very dubious of everything coming from Golden State.
Yeah, as you should be. I mean, Kai Bowman, big disappointment yesterday. Unfortunate because the guy's opportunities have been crazy. He played 36 minutes again, Josh. Played 36 minutes again on a team that is populated by the likes of Eric Paschall and Glenn Robinson and Jordan Poole and Damian Lee and Alec Burks. I know Burks had a good game, but he's still Alec Burks. And you're telling me that he had 15 fantasy points in 36 minutes against the Rockets? Do you understand how bad that actually is?
Very bad. Very, 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 very.
I mean, that's horrible. You're talking about 0.42 fantasy points per minute against the Rockets.
Not good. Not good.
God, no, as a matter of fact, it's so dog shit.
It is. It's absolute trash. What are you playing here from Golden State? Let's sum this one up quickly because Russell
got a ton of Kai Bowman.
Oh,
no,
really?
I'm kidding.
Oh,
no.
Okay,
I'm kidding.
I was gonna say I don't have him with the minutes today.
No, and Russell's expected to play. Listen, you mentioned it earlier. I really do think D'Angelo Russell is a big time play here. We don't have a huge sample on what we're going to get from him with all of these guys off the floor, but do you really, in all seriousness, do we really need to see what's going on with Wowie and what his minutes look like? All you really need to know is that Steph Curry and Draymond Green are off the floor, particularly Steph Curry. Draymond really doesn't mean as much to me as anything else. The concern here is a blowout, but I'm certainly not making my decisions based on a potential blowout from a Minnesota team that already isn't good. Yeah. D'Angelo Russell is underpriced, and there's just a lot to like. He's played only 30 minutes with Curry off the floor, so it's really hard to say. 35% usage, 33% assist, 1.12 fantasy points per minute. That means nothing to me. The opportunities will be abundant, and I don't see any two ways around that.
Alrighty. By the way, guys, you'll tune into the Live Before Lock tonight, 6 p.m. Eastern time, myself and Chris Spags, where you can get my final Jarrett Culver thoughts. Perfect time for everybody to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. We got the NFL Strategy Show coming up after this, 11 a.m. Eastern, so we got to keep it moving. Chris Randone and Ben Rasa taking a look at some fantasy cruncher strategies. We've got the betting show with Jordan and Ben. So Ben double dipping today. That'll be at noon. Alex and Nolan at 1 p.m. doing a Yahoo specific strategy show. Jake will have the NHL show at 4 p.m. Alex and Adam will be on the deeper dive starting at 4:45. They're going to need the extra 15 minutes. And then they will give way to myself and Spags at 6. Come tune in where I probably walk everything back and end up with like 40% Jarrett Culver. I didn't know that Lofty bailed on me during my soliloquy for likes and subscriptions, so we're just going to go back to having a fantastic show of just me. Oh, there he is. Sorry. I'll stop talking about him. I'll stop talking about him.
I needed to run off for a second. I figured why not do it while you're pumping out some wonderful Awesemo products.
Exactly. So hit that like button. New Orleans Pelicans, Toronto Raptors. Pels 116.25 implied total. Raptors 118.75. It's a monster pace-up spot for the Raptors. Pelicans getting a little bit of love to Drew Holiday on FanDuel at 8,200. Brandon Ingram at 14.9 on Fantasy Draft is probably the best play of anything I see from New Orleans. Favors looking to be back. And I think that I'm largely avoiding the Pelicans here. This is a bad spot for them.
Yeah, it's super weird, too, because this Pelicans team on some nights is just going to present a whole lot of value. That's not going to be the case today. Derek Favors, like you said, expected to return with Drew Holiday back. Brandon Ingram certainly takes a hit. I will say he's still going to, he has looked fantastic. Credit Brandon Ingram. He's looked awesome, but I still like 40 real points last time out. I really like what he's doing, but at that price tag, knowing that Holiday's on the floor, knowing that, Lonzo Ball is expected to play in this one, there's a lot of mouths to feed, at least as playmakers, and that makes it a little bit difficult. Derek Favors might not be a super high usage guy, but he's definitely higher than Jahlil Okafor. So I think the thing with Brandon Ingram at 8K plus is you are relying a lot on scoring. He'll get his, 5 to 7 rebounds, but you're not going to get a lot of opportunities as a playmaker, which you don't always need. But I do think in a very difficult matchup against a good Toronto defense, you're probably, it's probably wishful thinking to assume that Brandon Ingram has one of his better games today.
Couldn't have said it better myself. I'm just not all that interested in the Pels, and neither is the public. Lofty's leaving again. I'm the one that needs to take a leak.
I'm not going anywhere, man. I had to shut the door.
I'm just going to pee in the garbage can next to me. Raptors side, though, I got a bunch of interest. Pascal Siakam, Kyle Lowry is $31 on Yahoo. That's probably one of the better Yahoo plays of the day. I like Lowry clear across the board. He's at under 10% ownership. I like Siakam clear across the board. These are guys that I'm going to have, in the 10 to 15% range. I think Van Vliet looks fine at 6,800 or 6,200 on DK. No problem getting some shares of OG Anunoby. I just want to get a lot of Toronto because they're going to get a big time pace up spot, which is certainly helpful. The Pelicans defense so far this year, 5% worse than average. Everything's coming up roses here. The fact that it's on the road for Toronto just means the game should, in theory, be closer. They're playing monster minutes to all of the starters. I like having a lot of exposure to Toronto tonight.
Yeah, I like Pascal Siakam quite a bit. It's kind of wild paying the price like that for him, but you're gonna have to get used to that one. And I think one of the advantages too is on FanDuel, the price on FanDuel is tough, but he's small forward eligible, which number one is stupid. Number two, it does make him a little bit more appealing at a generally bad position. But yeah, it's just been a spectacular season from Siakam. This is one of those matchups that doesn't scare you at all. Actually, you happen to like this matchup quite a bit. New Orleans averaging almost 107 possessions per 48. Defensively, they've been awful. The only team with a worse defense than them this season has been the Golden State Warriors. And that front court defense has been particularly ugly. So, yeah, Siakam stands out to me. And are you getting, the question is like, are you getting elite type numbers from Siakam? 31% usage, 20% assists, 14% total rebound rate. Yeah. I mean, you're not getting Giannis numbers, of course, but you're getting pretty solid numbers from Siakam, and I would expect them to continue.
I agree. He's really, really, really good. I just want a bunch of this team. All of the offensive signs are in their favor today. Great defensive matchup, great pace spot, huge starter minutes. Those are the things that I want to bet on. This seems like the most consistently easy spot to project on the slate.
Agreed. I will say though, maybe this is probably where we differ. I don't have much interest in the rest of this Toronto team.
Really? Okay. So like, talk to me about $8,300 Kyle Lowry, because I think he stands out quite a bit. Would you rather have Kyle Lowry or D'Angelo Russell today?
Definitely D'Angelo Russell.
Okay. I would rather have Lowry.
I'm always going to take a guy that in a game that should see similar points. Right now you've got the Raptors with a 119 total. The Warriors implied total is only at 110, but both of these games have very high over-unders. I expect a lot of points to be scored in both. And the big thing for me is ultimately which one of these guys is going to see more opportunities. It's, to me, D'Angelo Russell. And sure. Lowry, of course, will see his chances. He's actually been getting up a good amount of shots recently and putting up solid numbers. You wanted to go Lowry over Russell. I don't have an issue with it, but I think the ceiling on Russell is higher here, knowing that he is the one guy on this team that can go off and rattle off 28 field goal attempts.
Yeah, he'll just go 6 for 28.
Possible.
My D'Angelo Russell takes. Anyway, Lowry, same price as Malcolm Brogdon. I would rather have Lowry in this particular spot. Even moving forward, like Bradley Beal or Lowry, I would rather have Lowry. Kyle Lowry is just really good when Kawhi Leonard is not on the floor. And I think that people are kind of sleeping on that still a little bit. The difference between Kawhi with Kawhi last year on or off, they were two separate players, but it made up, 60 to 70% of his performance last year. So his balance is off, I think. And for me, I want to have him in his low 8K ranges when, I have them gaining 6 possessions from pace here today. That's 6 possessions of neutral offense. Not only that, but the Pels defense has been not fantastic. Give me some Kyle Lowry, especially on Yahoo at 31. That one I can't skip.
Yeah, that's fine with me. But yeah, I actually think he's slightly expensive on DraftKings.
I can understand it. How many points do you have him projected for?
Hold on. Fantasy points, not real points, right? Not that matters. Kyle Lowry.
If you want to tell me real points, that's fine. That's not particularly useful for me right now.
I got D'Angelo Russell at 45 and Kyle Lowry at 42.5.
Okay. I've got D'Angelo Russell at 43, Kyle Lowry at 45.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. I could also see Russell not playing like crazy minutes today too in the first game back, but that's just a guess at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, maybe. Been out for like 6 days. I can't imagine it. Yeah, maybe you're right. We'll see. If he's not limited, then I like him a lot.
5 games in 19 minutes. Here we go. Dallas Mavericks, New York Knicks. Mavs 11-point favorites at home against the Knickerbockers. Welcome back, Juan Jose Barea. Don't know what they're going to be doing there. Damn backcourt for Dallas has too many bodies. So I think we need to talk about Luka at 10.5 on FanDuel, 9,900 on DraftKings, 18K on Fantasy Draft, 47 on Yahoo. I'm not terribly enamored with Kristaps Porzingis, but any share you get is obviously fine in this mild revenge game. And
Stop it.
I think he really does hate the Knicks.
Yeah, I mean, I think this would be like a thank you game, if anything. Bring him a gift basket.
I just hope he goes around crotch chopping everybody from New York. And then Dwight Powell, 5,100 on FanDuel, 4,400 on DraftKings. I think he's one of the better value plays of the day.
He is, and I'd be happy to be out of New York if I was Porzingis. So
yeah.
I don't see this as much of anything. JJ Barea, meanwhile, started the second half of this last game.
I know. I don't know what to do here. I thought his career was over.
I know, dude. The funny thing about Barea is on a per minute basis, this guy's spectacular. Like every single season. However, he might start. If it turns out that he starts, I'll have interest in Barea. Not kidding either. I actually would.
I don't think he's going to get the minutes. Remember, he's coming back from an Achilles, man.
I hear you. But 20 minutes from JJ Barea at minimum salary, you could do worse.
Oh, I'm with you. I can't project him for 20 minutes. I think that 14 that he played is actually going to be all that it is.
It's possible, yeah. If he starts, I could see around that, but yeah, of course, it would just be like a dart throw in tournaments. I think Porzingis is a fine play here at this price point. I'd love to see him rebound a little bit better, but we're seeing that improve slightly, and he's not priced at a spot where you feel gross getting him in the lineups. There is a nice ceiling here, particularly against the Knicks. But Dwight Powell, certainly the one that stands out. 34 minutes last game. He's way underpriced, and that's really all it comes down to. He's cheap. He's getting the minutes, and he's got a fair enough matchup with the Knicks, which Mitchell Robinson's out.
Yeah,
that's certainly helpful if you're the Dallas front court.
Certainly is. I only put Powell in for 28 minutes because I didn't want to go crazy, and his per minute stats have been terrible so far this season, but 28 minutes at 4,400 is one of my better values of the entire.
I have him at 28 too.
Yeah.
I have him at 28 too,
and there's certainly upside in that number. Like it can
right. We know that he can play well above 30 because he already has.
Yep. So sign me up for some Dwight Powell. On the Knicks side, I mean, Julius Randle is $7K on FanDuel, $6,900 on DraftKings, $13,400 on Fantasy Draft, $29 on Yahoo. On FanDuel, DK, and Fantasy Draft, Julius Randle is like a top 5 play on the slate.
At where?
FanDuel, DraftKings, Fantasy Draft. There's talk that he may start at center.
Yeah. I mean, I tweeted something the other day that last week, the only 3 players that led their team in touches, usage, potential assists, potential rebounds, all of those, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Luka Doncic, and Julius Randle was one of those. Now, I believe that RJ Barrett has surpassed him in usage, possibly maybe even in touches, but it goes to show you that Julius Randle is very much involved in this offense. And while RJ Barrett is going to continue to shoulder a big workload because of those minutes, yeah, Randle is certainly a fine play here against Dallas. I don't know if I have him as a top 5 play like you do, but I don't mind him either.
24% expected ownership on FanDuel right now. Only 13 on DraftKings. I just think it's a really good spot. I've got him in for 34 minutes. He's going to be able to do. It's not like Dallas has a formidable defensive front court. Porzingis is a great defender. I don't think that he is set up well to defend Julius Randle. That dude is a bowling ball. He'll go I don't know if Porzingis is strong enough for that. And I think that Randle is just kind of like a better version of Dwight Powell. So I really like the idea of Randle in this one.
Me too. I don't like him as much, but I definitely think he's in a good spot.
As for the rest of it,
you think Portis sees a big uptick in minutes?
Not really. I think that Taj Gibson is probably the biggest benefactor here. They don't seem to be playing Portis more at all. 20 minutes in his last 3. He was up into the 29 in the 2 previous to that. Those games still had Mitchell Robinson. He's yo-yoing all over the place. I didn't need to find additional minutes. I gave them to Taj. Taj played 21.6 minutes in the most recent game after Mitchell Robinson went down. So I just put Taj in for 20. I've got Bobby Portis in for 22. The only things that I'm really interested in here are mildly RJ Barrett on DK, maybe a little Frankie Smokes, and that is it.
Yep.
Just give me Randall. Oh, damn, we are not even remotely close to finishing this.
We're good, man.
No, we're not. We have 13 minutes. We got to move.
We're good, bro.
We have 4 games left.
Well, stop complaining and let's do it, man.
I can't help it. I feel bad. Denver and Philly battle between the best center in basketball and the second best center in basketball, although I'm not going to lie. I'm not looking great on this one this year.
Yeah, there's no way you can stand by that right now, that no. Jokic is a better offensive player than Embiid. There's just none.
No. Now I'll just say that it's Towns, and I don't have to give the credit to Embiid.
You want to do that, I'm all right with it.
By the way, I'm smashing Nikola Jokic right in the spot today.
What's that?
By the way, I'm going to have a ton of Nikola Jokic. 8,500 on FanDuel, 8,500 on DK. One of my favorite plays of the day.
I honestly don't think I will.
Okay.
I know it's going to happen where the moment I stop rostering him, he explodes. But man, I'm just not feeling this. That Embiid Horford frontcourt does not make life easy for opposing bigs. Yeah. Jokic, everyone's saying, "Oh, he's out of shape. He's this and that." Look, I've watched a lot of Jokic, and he just still looks fat, right? Like he looked fat before, and he kind of just looks fat now. Yeah. But he looks careless, and his play is very sloppy, and I don't know what to make of it right now. But the Sixers are allowing, a bottom 5 efficiency to centers this season. Amazingly, they're allowing, get this, 11 rebounds per game to the position, which is crazy. I just don't think it's a good spot. Is he good enough to kind of power through any matchup when he's at his peak? No question. Jokic in any matchup, just like Embiid last game against Rudy Gobert went off for 27 and 16, right? Like this is doable. But Embiid gets to the free throw line at a ridiculous clip. Mm-hmm. Nikola Jokic isn't getting any opportunities from the free throw line. If you're not drawing fouls against this Philly front court, I think you're going to have a tough time. So, I'm not a big, hey, I'm worried about foul trouble guy, but if there's ever a spot to just kind of add that to my analysis, it would be here. Nobody draws fouls in that paint better than Embiid.
Does that make you like Mason Plumlee today?
No, not really.
Okay, just checking. I would rather have Jokic today without question than Embiid, but that's because they're separated by $2,000.
Well, I'm not big on either of them in this spot. There's too many high-priced guys for me to fall in love with either.
I'd rather have Towns than Embiid.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I don't need anything else really from Denver. It's a tough spot. And then Raul Neto, 3,700 on FanDuel, 3,400 on DK. No Ben Simmons, 36% owned on FanDuel, 41% on DraftKings. He is my preferred guard value.
Yeah, and I will point this out. I mentioned this on the early bird. While I do like Neto for sure, I wouldn't go into this with the expectations that Ben Simmons being out is going to help the rest of this offense. As a matter of fact, I think it really hurts them. Yeah. If you watched any of that last game with Simmons off the court, their half-court offense was terrible. The transition, they looked terrible in transition. There were no fast break points. Granted, Utah is a good defense for sure, but you're taking a 21% usage rate off the floor. Nothing big, okay? And then you're taking his assists off the floor and rebounds. So there's going to be spots like that you can benefit. More assists to go around, more rebounds, yes. But I do expect their efficiency to take a big hit with him not running this offense.
I don't disagree. I think he is quite the linchpin. Really anxious to see how Josh Richardson does with more ball handling duties. But ultimately for this game, a couple shares of Embiid, but Neto is the value piece of this one. I'm not going crazy, like he's not like an 80% value guy or anything, but I'll be near the field.
I think he's around an 80% value guy. The only reason is he's getting opportunities as a ball handler with probably 33 minutes of work. That's good enough. Usually I will load up on guys like this. Could it backfire? Certainly. He's not a great player. And it's not a great matchup against the slow-paced Denver team, but huge minutes from Neto. He did show opportunities as a ball handler. It's not Embiid or Harris bringing the ball up. We actually did see Raul Neto with a lot of those opportunities. So in that respect, I think, I 80 is obviously a stretch. I'm exaggerating a bit, but I do think he's someone that I'm happy to get over the field on if he's going to be like 30%.
Jazz and Milwaukee defensive struggles here. Two of the 5 best defensive teams from a fantasy perspective. Not a single person in this game is north of 9% expected ownership. I'll have a little Gobert on FanDuel, a little bit of Mike Conley on DK. I'll have a little bit of Giannis because he's Giannis, but this is not a game for fantasy production.
No, and that's why I said I think we'd be fine here because this game is not going to take a lot of time. Anytime you want to get to Giannis Antetokounmpo, I am okay with it.
Yep.
Very simple. 34% usage, 41% assists, 21% rebounds, 4.5% block rate, mind-numbing production from Giannis. And the number, he has 14 plus rebounds in 5 straight games.
1.93 FanDuel points per minute.
Yep. It's nuts. He has less than 6 assists in 1 game. He has 30 plus points 4 times this season already. There's no denying that in any spot, Giannis can do tons of damage. And while I hate this matchup, if he's going to come in just completely overlooked, right? If you're getting Giannis at no ownership, sub 10%, because he is this good, to me on FanDuel specifically, where he's $200 more than Towns, and he's not like, what is he, $100 more than LeBron? I think you can always make that argument, and I would listen.
He'll be one of my more owned players. I like him a lot more than LeBron. I like him a lot more than Pascal Siakam. I assume that I will have miles more than the 9% that we're projecting him for on FanDuel. But ultimately, You don't really want much of this game. Uh-oh. Might be dropping the stream. And we're back. All right. Portland and Brooklyn. 118 implied total for Portland, 115 for the Nets, 3-point favorites there. This is mostly just 3.5 things for me. Lillard, Whiteside, McCollum. If I'm ranking those guys, it goes McCollum, Whiteside, Lillard. And then Rodney Hood for 3,600 on DraftKings, I think we need to talk about. But I'm going to have decent exposure. On DraftKings, these guys are pretty cheap. I'm going to have pretty sizable exposure to Portland in a monstrous pace-up game for them. How do you feel about the Blazers?
I'm with you. My God, Rodney Hood is bad, but there's certainly merit to looking his way if he's going to play 30 minutes, but I really prefer not to. Like there's no way at all that I would say, all right, give me a $4,500 Rodney Hood over Culver at, what is he, 3,800? No chance in hell. And you can't in your right mind say that is what you would do. There's no way.
What are you saying?
There's no way you would go a $4,500 Rodney Hood over Jarrett Culver at 3,800 if Teague and Napier are out.
No, not at all.
Okay. Well, you said you wanted to talk about Hood, so
Hood's
I wasn't
3,600 on DraftKings. I have no interest in him. He's 4,500 on FanDuel. I have no interest in him on FanDuel. On DraftKings, I think he's a very nice value.
I got you. Yeah, not comparable to Culver there.
No.
I like
Whiteside.
I
would rather have Culver for sure in that spot.
Yeah, okay. I don't know what Stotts is going to do with Whiteside on the back-to-back.
Doesn't have a choice.
He played 26 and 24 on their last back-to-back, if that tells you anything. I think he probably gets around 27 here.
I give him 26.
He's just a great rebounder, scorer around the basket. His shot blocking should improve. I actually think we'll start to see better block shot numbers. I love him. McCollum, I just hate playing this guy. I really do. But he's too cheap for a guy that has a 27% usage rate, getting upwards of 38 minutes in regulation. These are spots where you have to get there. With Lillard, 9K is too cheap. I like this entire team, at least those big 3 guys.
Yeah, we're on the same page then. The big 3 are the key. On the Brooklyn side, only Kyrie at 11% on FanDuel is in double digits. That's pretty much where I stand. You could talk me into a couple shares of Karis LeVert, but I don't get the sense that I'm going to have much from Brooklyn.
No, me neither. Of course, Kyrie Irving is just putting up insane numbers.
Yeah.
And I love what I've seen from him as a passer. because that just we didn't see that last year. Maybe he's just getting lucky and he's connecting on more of these opportunities than he did a season ago. But when you're seeing he's averaging almost 2 more potential assists per game, which is nice to see. And he's a great, great, great player. But I probably don't get there at this price point because the guard position, we've said it a million times, I'll say it again, is so deep.
There we go. Final game. I think we're going to get there. Lakers and Heat. Lakers 112, implied total Heat 103.5. Whew. For me, the Lakers are 2 guys and 2 guys only. It's AD and LeBron. I'd much rather have AD at 11-2 than LeBron at 11-6. I'd rather have AD at 11-1 compared to 10-6 or 10-1 compared to 10-6. So I like AD a lot more than I like LeBron. I'm going to have both of them probably more than their ownership shows. And on the Miami side, outside of Jimmy Butler at 7,400 on DraftKings, I don't get the sense that I'm going to have a single share of the Heat.
Okay. Anthony Davis, I agree with you. That price tag is just too cheap. I know he's coming off a game where he just pulled a complete Houdini. One just disappeared. Gone. By the way, I'm sorry. If DeAndre Jordan's out, Jarrett Allen, probably someone we should talk about. $5K on DraftKings, very cheap. Just getting that out there. I would actually probably like him a decent amount. But Anthony Davis here, yes, very solid play. Bam Adebayo, I've loved what I've seen from him. Is just an amazing contributor in terms of his versatility. I love players like that, but also a spot where I'm not going to get there. I do think his price is fair, but there's just a lot of good options today. He's on his second of a back-to-back. And while the minutes are probably there, the Lakers defense has been very solid and they're playing at a slow pace.
Speaking of that defense, I just want to drop that in here before we close this out. Lakers are the 3rd best fantasy defense so far this season. Heat 4th. Very good. Very good. So, to me, it's just AD, LeBron, and a little bit of Butler on DK. Otherwise, this is not a game for fantasy production.
I hear you.
10:59 a.m. Look at that. We are good to go. You were right. We got it in. Hit the like
we always
button.
Do, baby.
We're out of here. Chris Randone, Ben Rossa coming up for NFL Strategy. Laffy, anything else?
That'll do it. Stick around. I'm not on the deeper dive, but somebody is today, and I'm sure it'll be great. Not
Alex
as
Baker.
good as it is. Not as good as it is with me, but it'll be good.
Alex Baker. It might be better.
Oh,
sorry, buddy.
Of course, it had to be Alex.
Sorry, buddy. Sorry. Thanks, guys, for joining us. We really appreciate hanging out. Catch us on all the rest of the content that we have coming up today, and we will talk to you again later. Bye.